member asante sana.
Asante sana Bwana County Commissioner. Sasa leo imefika ile siku tumekuwa tukitarajia ifike haraka ya kuweza kudistribute chakula kwa watu wa Nakuru wenye wako na njaa. As we all know, drought imekuwa shida kubwa sana in the whole of the country. In fact, with some areas more affected, but also even in Nakuru County, some of our areas being very, very affected. Na ni kwa kutoka hapo tuliweza kuongea na serikali kuu na tukaweza kuwaambia hata kama Nakuru County haikuwa katika zile county 23 za ESAL, Nakuru has some very dry areas, na mnajua hivyo cause nyinyi wote mmetoka different areas ya hii county. Chakula haijakuwa mzuri kwa mashamba na wakulima wetu wengi hawajakuwa na chakula round hii. Kwa hivyo by extension watu wengi wa Nakuru hawana chakula. So from those discussions and kuweza kulobi hivyo, Nakuru tukaweza kuwa sasa wengine another 6 counties that ziliongezewa to the 23 ESAL counties. And that is how we have managed to get the food here. It's also a bit unfortunate because tunajua Nakuru County ni backbone yetu ni ukulima. So Nakuru has always been one of those places where chakula imekuwa mingi sana over the years. But also in the last few years tumeona maneno ya climate change and by extension imekuwa iki-affect our agriculture. But in addition to that pia is the very, very expensive, kama tumekuwa tukiongea wakati tulipokuwa tukitafuta hii kazi, ya very expensive farm inputs. Na hiyo pia imechangia kwa wakulima wetu kukosa kuwa na chakula ya kutosha. Yani they have not been able, their crops have not been able to produce as has been in the previous years. But government, national government imesaidia by having some mitigation measures, maneno ya subsidized fertilizer yenye iko hapa county, na tunauliza wakulima wetu tafadhali waweze to find their way to obtain that fertilizer. Na vile tu tuliwaambia tukitafuta kazi, we are now providing it at 3,500, which I think goes a great way kutusaidia ili next year tusiwe sasa na shida sana ya production ya chakula yetu, in addition to other measures zenye tunachukua to make sure that agriculture really flourishes. Sasa, in what we have today, we have 11 trucks like the one you see behind you. And these trucks are going to all our constituencies or all our sub-counties. Nakuru West, Gilgil, Bahati, Nakuru East, Molo, Subukia, Kuresoi North, Naivasha, Njoro, Kuresoi South, na Rongai. Now each of these trucks will be containing 400 bags of 50 kg rice in each bag. So 400 bags, and each bag has 50 kgs of rice. And also 160 bags of beans, with each bag being 50 kgs of beans. So that is the first dispatch that we have here today. And we are also hopeful that in the coming weeks, we shall also still be able to get a little more, and perhaps then target it more to the areas that are more affected than others. Because all areas are affected, but some more than others. So we shall probably add a bit more in the coming days for those very, very, very hard-hit areas. Now, as the trucks leave here, once we flag them off, they go to the sub-counties, to the constituencies. And once they get to the constituencies, we have committees at that level that will be sitting first thing on Monday morning. And they involve both from the side of administration, from the county side, a representative of the Member of Parliament as well, our sub-county administrators and all that, the religious organizations as well are represented, and they are good committees at the sub-county level. Kutoka hapo, you know, we are devolved, and what we do must always be devolved. We then devolve the committees down to the location and sub-location levels, where those committees will also have that sort of representative at that level. And if there, they will also identify the families. So it's from the sub-county to the ward level and then to the location and sub-location levels. And they will be able to come up as a group, as a committee, and identify the families that are heavily affected. Because the one thing that we must make sure, and we have said this to the county commissioner, we are very serious that this food must get to the intended recipients. We shall not entertain any games. So the food must get to the families that require the food due to their circumstances. And that is why we have those committees whose purpose, whose work is to identify those families at the grassroots level. So thank you very much. So for now, this hopefully will help mitigate the hunger that we have in the county, but we shall also ourselves, as we go along, take measures to mitigate even further, so that we make sure that hopefully in the coming months, we are not in this same position as we go ahead and implement our agenda, be it water, be it doing much more in the farming arena, in agriculture, so that we make sure the farmers are supported more, so that they are able to provide food for food security purposes as well, in addition to being able to sell the food and make a living out of that.
To find out how many, you said that the food will be distributed across all the 11 counties. But maybe you just tell us which are some of the worst affected sub-counties in Nakuru in general, because most people were wondering how is it that Nakuru is among the 29 counties that have been affected by the drought situation. So really just looking at which constituencies are the worst hit at the moment.
Actually, that's a very, very good question, because even as we sat as COGs, some of the members, my colleagues, could not understand how Nakuru, as I tried to get some food out here, how Nakuru and why Nakuru needed some food. But I'm also sure, in your going around the county, you have seen some parts of Naivasha that are very, very affected, be it in Maela, Mai Mahio, Karagita areas. Some areas are very heavily affected. Come to Gilgil and you will see some heavy drought problems there. In the Elementaita areas, some areas of Baruch, just different parts of Gilgil. Even near Gilgil ward itself, there are some areas that have a lot of food issues, drought, been hit by drought really heavily, and especially also in some of the informal settlements that we have within the county. Come to nearby Rongai, and you will find that some parts are really, really arid, so that drought has really hit them hard, and we have problems in Rongai as well. When we talk about Subukia, there are some parts of Subukia, the lower part, Uko Solai, you will find that we have very serious drought issues. And even here within Nakuru town, I'm talking about Mzee Wanyama areas when we talk about Nakuru town east. I'm talking about drought that has hit and food issues in areas like Kapkures even, where, or even Kaptembwa, where we have some informal settlements, and so people are suffering and having an issue being able to put food on the table. We are also talking about every part of the county in different constituencies, but different areas of the constituencies. So it's really all over, but in some areas more than others, and in some specific parts of the constituencies as well. Thank you. And that's part of why the committees, when they sit, they'll also be able, because wako huko mashinani, be able to identify more who are the harder hit ones than others.
Tumetembea hali kama Subukia ambapo kuna mazao mengi ya mahindi, lakini unapata kutokana na dorora kwa uchumi, unapata watu pale wamechangamkia kuuza mahindi mbichi ambayo huenda ikawa hatari mwaka ujao. Huenda hayo maeneo yakavamiwa na njaa kutokana na ukosefu wa mahindi ambayo imekauka ya kisiagwa unga. Labda wito wako kama gavana wa kaunti ya Nakuru kwa wakulima kama wale ni upi?
Sasa, thank you very much. Hiyo ni swali mzuri sana because kumekuwa by the way na shida ya economy. Economy yetu imekuwa chini kiasi na I'm sure kila Mkenya anaelewa hiyo. Na some of the issues imekuwa brought by issues outside of our outside of even this country, by things like that were happening outside the country that then ikafanya bei ya vitu kama mafuta ikapanda, and by extension with that then it makes almost everything from even the consumable goods very expensive. Na kwa hivyo mkulima amekuwa na shida, anauza hizo mahindi when they are green in the farm because pengine anataka kurudisha mtoto shule na hana pesa ya karo. Na some of that, like I'm saying, then it becomes related all together. But I agree with you, the problem is as we move along the months, then tutafika wakati hakuna chakula kabisa. So now we are suffering right now, but in a few months where they're supposed to be harvesting and probably having those food in the store for another season, then we have nothing going on at that time. What I can tell you is hii serikali ya His Excellency the President William Ruto has taken measures to mitigate the economy, to cushion the economy. I know alisema, which I agree with him 100%, akatoa hizo subsidy kama za mafuta and all that, because we must work more on production instead of just cushioning what we are consuming, because in the long run that will not bring the price down. So what we are doing, like we said, is targeted programs, like for example the fertilizer ones, where we are targeting the farmers and selling them the fertilizers at an affordable rate, so they are able to have crops that will grow and do better in the coming season, I hope, so that there is more and they are not forced to eat what on the shamba and then not have nothing else for food security, so to speak, and for themselves later. So what it is we must take precaution to help cushion our farmers, but also I ask our farmers if it is possible, where possible. Obviously I understand kuna many other pressing needs that perhaps they feel they need to sell the food before it gets dry. They sell the maize green on the farm. So if it is possible, then watulie tu kidogo, we shall eventually get things going right, and eventually everybody will be okay. Hopefully we'll be able soon to roll out things like bursaries, because I know some of that is what has really been a problem for the farmers, because they need to take their children to school. When the price of maize comes down, or flour for example, nimeona leo imeanza kushuka kidogo. Price ya gas ya kupika imeanza kushuka. So when these things start, the economy is starting to respond to the measures that the president has put in place. So when the prices come down, then I am hopeful in the next few months, the farmers and all our citizens will feel the economy will be better for us. There will be a bit more money circulating, and they will do better and not need to sell their food before time. As a county government, tunafanya kazi vizuri sana na national government so that tusaidiane, because the people the county government serves are the same people that the national government serves. Na sasa umepoint a very good important point. Most of what we are doing right now and getting a lot of help from the national government on is actually devolved, like agriculture. But some shida zenye zimekuwa katika even this drought is something that is bigger than county governments as well. Part of it being climate change, which is not only happening here in Kenya, but all over the world. There is not too much we can do about lack of rainfall, for example. And as we know, farmers rely on the rain to be able to have their products produce good crops. So some of those mitigation areas, we are working hand in hand with the national government, and you will see us also taking lead and prioritizing those areas as a county to make sure that we have put in the resources necessary to help the people of Nakuru County, be it agriculture, and I'll repeat again quickly, hapo polepole kwa haraka, be it agriculture in the sense of making sure there is subsidized fertilizers, there is better seeds for our farmers. We shall be soon hiring extension officers, wasaidie our farmers in also being able to determine what are the better crops, even given the different climate, the climate change. Some things that maybe did very well 10 years ago may not be the cash crops that we need right now. And some of them may be newer crops that our farmers had not planted. For example, avocado as an example, where maybe they can bring in a lot of money, but before they had not really been a thing, so to speak. So we shall be making sure that our farmers pia wanaelimishwa so that tujue what would earn them more money, probably produce more, and also at the same time make sure that there is food security for our people. In addition to that, one of my big agendas is water. Because pia bila maji, many things do not move. Water is actually life. And water is part of this agriculture as well. Some of the areas, when we talk about, I know one of the journalists there asked me about where are some of the areas in Nakuru County that have drought. When you talk about drought and think of Njoro, for example, you come across an area like Maunarok may be very productive, but Lare is semi-arid completely and doesn't have water. So we must find a way to make sure there is water for the county, water, good, clean, safe drinking water, but also water for irrigation and farming. And part of that, I was with the president yesterday, and one of the big advanced discussions is on the completion of the Itare Dam, on the completion of the last mile for the Chemasusu Dam to bring us water, because we haven't done piping in that, to Rasha Dam in Gilgil and Malewa Dam, as we move towards prioritizing water in everything that we are doing. But also making sure we have markets, we have good infrastructure for the farmers to get the crops to the market, and that sort of stuff. So yes, we shall be in the front line as well in making sure that we do our part, but also together and in cooperation with the national government.
Kwa ufupi, siku hii ya leo tuko hapa kuzindua rasmi mambo ya chakula kwa wananchi wetu hapa Nakuru, kwa sababu serikali iliamua kwamba hakuna Mkenya ambaye atakufa kwa njaa. Kwa hivyo hii ni consignment ya kwanza ambaye tumepata, na leo tuna flag off iende sehemu mbalimbali ambazo zitatajwa na gavana wetu. Na kwa ufupi nitasema kwamba sisi zote sharti tusaidiane na serikali kuu kuhakikisha kwamba tuko na mazao, tuko na chakula ya kutosha, na wananchi wetu hasa wakulima waongeze juhudi zao wakitumia hizi short rains ili tupate chakula hata nyingi zaidi. Unajua katika kaunti hii tuko na zaidi ya watu 70,000 ambao wanahitaji msaada wa chakula. Kwa hivyo hii ni consignment tu ambayo imekuja mwanzo. Na pia ningependa kuelezea wakulima kwamba tuko na ile subsidized fertilizer ambayo serikali imetoa ili kuweza kuongezea uzalishaji wa chakula katika sehemu hii. Na tuko na fertilizer aina ya DAP ambayo inapatikana katika depot ya Nakuru. Tuko na mifuko 3,459. Solai tuko na DAP 3,197 bags. Subukia tuko na 787 bags, na Elbagon 560. Na hii bei yake inauzwa 3,500. Kwa hivyo serikali tayari imeanza program ya kushusha bei ya chakula na kuongeza uzalishaji wa chakula katika sehemu hii. Kwa hivyo tunaomba wakulima wetu wafanye hivyo.